So our session today is on data-driven approach to enhance users' information experience. Our speaker for today is Ashwini Mathar, who is a manager, information design and development at BMC Software. Ashwini has more than 15 years of experience in technical writing. She's originally from Hyderabad. She's been with BMC Software Pune for the past 9 years. So her hobbies include singing and watching cartoons. An interesting fact about Ashwini is that although she's been in the field of technical writing for so many years, this is the first time that she's presenting at the STC conference. All the best, Ashwini, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Prachi, for that nice introduction. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here for the conference. So I will start sharing my screen and get into the details of what I would like to present today. So I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see it fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect for me.
Okay, all right. So can I go ahead and start off?
Yes, in the interest of time, I guess we should get started.
Okay.
People will keep joining.
Okay, fine. So hello everyone, I am Ashwini Mathar from BMC Software, and I would like to keep my introduction very short. I have been with BMC for the past 9 years, and I manage the documentation team for one of our flagship products, which is the BMC Remedy platform product. So moving on, in this session, I will talk about how the information design and development teams efforts at BMC to collect and analyze data periodically is improving the content experience for our customers. I will also delve on how this data-driven approach is helping us with better prioritization and is also helping us invest our team's efforts in the right direction. So in the IDD team, as we call it at BMC, the content development team, we periodically collect data using Google Analytics and also Google Data Studio. We analyze the data, correlate it with other data points, gather insights based on the data that we collect, and then take actions based on these insights. We repeat this analyze, act, observe cycle every month, and we are glad to see how these small yet impactful changes that we are bringing into our content set are resonating positively with our customers. During this process, we have also realized that collecting data is one aspect, but inferring what the data says is a different ballgame altogether. Gathering and analyzing this data and working on the actionable insights makes our jobs even more interesting at BMC. So all of BMC's product documentation is Confluence based, Confluence Wiki based, and is available online. On an average, our documentation site, docs.bmc.com, generates some enormous amount of data, which is to the tune of 8 lakh unique page views per month. This is last year's data that have averaged out. So as you can see, this enormous data indicates to us that there is some good readership for our content and makes us really happy. But it also makes us more responsible towards creating quality content and help our customers become successful when using our products. With so much of data around, it is important for us to drill down further to gain better insights and perform specific actions to improve our content set. So regularly we collect several metrics besides the standard metrics that we have, such as bounce rates, exit rates, top landing pages, and so on. In particular, we collect metrics that are to the tune of the top content pages. What are the total unique page views for our content? What are the top landing pages? We also keep track of what search keywords are often used to search our content, Were there any unsuccessful searches? Whether the search results were appropriate, relevant to the keywords that our customers have searched the content for. So I'll get into the details of some of these reports that we regularly keep a track of. So our top content spaces report. Content spaces here, I mean that for each of the product line that we have and for each version, there is a separate content space that is available for our customers to view. Now our top content spaces report indicates to us which content spaces are more popular with our customers. So on the left-hand side on the screen that you see the top 10 popular spaces report, it gives us that insight. So typically after the release of a product version, we use this report to see how well the new release is being adopted by our customers. This report also gives us insight about which product we need to focus our more efforts on. The more the popularity of a content set, the more is the investment from IDD to maintain and upkeep that content. From the top pages report, we get to know what are the top pages that are viewed the most. We also look for any anomalies in this report. We check whether the top pages displayed in the report are in line with our expectations, meaning the expected set of pages are appearing there in the top and that there is no deviation. For example, whenever a new release is out, we see that the page hits typically go to our home pages, our release notes content, our enhancements pages, defect documentation, and so on, and which is in line with our expectations. We have our home pages which serve as the entrance entry points to our documentation. So we also track how our homepage, which homepage blocks our customers are hitting the most. And from the homepage block report, we understand which are the top branches in our content that customers typically navigate to from home pages. For our on-premises products, typically we've seen that installing and upgrading blocks are usually in top 5. And for our cloud-based products, administering, onboarding blocks are typically in top 5 of our report. Based on what type of content we are offering, we make our content model decisions and align the home pages to cater to the needs of either our on-prem users or SaaS subscribers. Another interesting report that we regularly track is our top search terms report. We gather the top search terms report from the organic search, the Google search, and also searches that were made from our Confluence site itself. So we gather the search term reports to understand the top information needs of our readers. Typically for what information the customer has come to our site and what kind of information that they were looking for. This data also gives us a great insight to base our content strategy decisions whenever we take up content restructuring projects. And from this report, what we typically do is we research which keywords users are using to search our content, check which topics are returned as search results for a keyword, and improve these search results through proper metadata. And when we know that what people are searching for, we can improve the search results. And whenever possible, we use terms in the documentation that match these common user search terms. For example, let's say the most common search term used is CLI. And in our content set, if we are using command line interface, CLI being the most popular search term, we end up adding in our metadata or in the topic introduction terms such as CLI, so that the appropriate pages are returned whenever a customer searches for that term. So that's just one example. There are many such analysis that we do regularly. Another interesting insight that we get is from our search usage report. This report helps us to arrive at some interesting findings in terms of users' behavior, the need for more of micro content, crisp topic introductions, and so on. In the example that you see on the screen, a user has searched in our documentation for error code 303. A relevant page from our documentation was shown in the search results. The user seems to have spent a good amount of time on this particular search result, because when we look at other data points such as click-through ratio, the user did not click on the link that was presented for this particular topic. So the insight that we draw from here is that the small topic in the blurb that was displayed after the search result has helped the reader to understand the resolution for his problem. So they got what they were looking for, and the user simply exited the site. So the micro content seems to have helped the user to understand the problem, and it kind of served his need. This is kind of similar to the people also ask section on Google search results. Besides the regular metrics, we also keep a track of customer feedback via various means. In particular, we collect a good amount of feedback via page voting mechanism, via page comments, and also through customer feedback surveys. What we have seen so far is the feedback that we collect via page votes and comments is direct and specific most of the times. For customer surveys, we have seen that the feedback is most of the times a little vague and generic, and that gives us enough of challenges when we take up to address that feedback. Now I will talk in details about how the page voting mechanism is helping us and how we draw insights from that, and how we have formulated our strategy there. Every page in our documentation site includes a was this page helpful question to the reader. We collect the yes and no votes that are generated from this feedback mechanism. But how do we interpret the page voting and analyze that actionable feedback? On the page voting feedback, if a page is marked as not helpful, the reader is presented with a set of categories that they can choose from, and they can inform or they can give a feedback as to what exactly was the issue with the content on that page. And we see that we are very glad that our customers do select these categories most of the times. So as you can see, there are several categories that we ask them to choose, such as, not correct, needs a video, missing information or missing screenshots and graphics, confusing, not the information I expected, kind of feedback categories that we have. So based on our regular analysis, we have sort of formulated our actions for each of these categories. For example, let's say on a page, if the feedback is not the information I expected, we check whether the page title is setting wrong expectations. And we have seen in the past, like for example, if there was a gerund in the topic title, which might have indicated to the reader that this is a how-to procedure. However, the actual information that we are covering is of type reference. So there is indeed a mismatch in terms of expectations at the topic title itself. So we look out for opportunities to fix the topic titles and also correct the topic information, whether, the topic context, whether the context is being set correctly or not. If the feedback that we receive is this page is confusing, as we do with all of our content, we get this content editorially reviewed again. Also, we take the help of some new users to review that content for us, and also check whether that content is not setting the right context there. Also, when the feedback is not correct, we get this content validated by our peer writers and SMEs, and so on and so forth. So these kind of actions go on. So for screenshots and missing graphics, the feedback is straight, but we still evaluate whether a meaningful screenshot can be added to the content to help help the reader successful with that content. So while all this is being said and done and being tracked regularly, we do not lose sight of the pages that were voted as helpful. Because for us, yes vote on our page indicates what is really working well with our content. And we look for opportunities to replicate that content experience in other similar pages. For example, let's say we have a topic with how-to procedures, having good screenshots, good progressive elaboration techniques is voted as yes. We try to replicate similar structure and content flow in other similar pages. Now, in this entire effort, our sole aim is to convert a no vote to a yes vote to bring in that customer delight. In addition to the page votes, we also get customer feedback via page comments. We get a lot of page comments, and this feedback is mostly direct and specific, typically asking for more information, some issues with the content, or general inquiries also. We keep a close track of our customer comments, and we have some good efforts in there to a good amount of SLAs to burn down the page comments that we get there. Additionally, we don't stop there. We also collect feedback via customer surveys. Customer surveys, as I mentioned earlier, most of the times, in fact, we get a lot of generic feedback, meaning your online documentation is good or your online documentation is not findable, you need to improve findability, and so on. So while this is all a reactive approach based on customer feedback, and while this reactive approach is definitely helping us improve the information experience, we are not stopping there. We are using Google Analytics to proactively restructure our content to help improve our content navigation, findability, and make our customers successful. Some of the recent content usability decisions, such as merging several small and related topics into a single long topic, where favoring topic scrolling over multiple clicks seems to be improving the customer's information experience for us. And in addition to that, this usage data that we typically collect is also making it easy for us to reach out to our internal stakeholders, and is also helping us prioritize our efforts there. So to describe one internal project, we had recently one humongous task of fixing our across the space reference links to the different pages of our content. There were some more than hundreds or thousands of links that were being referred to from across the huge content set that we support. So we wanted to automate this task by using the inclusions library. And when we start, so to simplify the execution of this project, we took the help of metrics. We got the list of top viewed pages, and based on that, we prioritized the effort. This ensured that we had the right priorities in place and the right capacity of writers involved in this task. So moving on, I will now get into some of the examples, some case studies where we have implemented this data analysis cycle, and we have seen some great results for the efforts that we were putting in. So the first example that I would like to cover here is one curious feedback that we were constantly getting. So the problem here was in our routine metrics analysis, we started to see feedback coming on installing and upgrading pages of our content sets. The pages were marked as confusing, and they were marked as not helpful in the first place. And the feedback that we were getting was it was confusing to the reader. And we saw this feedback recurring in our monthly metrics. Now, the installing and upgrading pages that I'm talking about, where most of the feedback was, is part of our legacy content set, where not much of documentation updates were happening. So just to give you a good understanding of how the content sets are structured, as you can see the small little graphic on the screen, the installing and upgrading content resides in the solution deployment space on the right hand side, and that content is common to all the other specific application and platform spaces that we have. And that content is referred from these spaces on the left hand side. So we used to redirect, we used to add links to help the reader navigate to that content set. So when we analyzed where exactly the problem was, we understood why so much of not so good feedback that we are getting on these pages. We reviewed the installing and upgrading pages for their content structure. So this was our original page in the application content space. This page seems to have had good topic introduction, good infographic, and good related links. But our analysis inferred whatever we inferred from the analysis was that the infographic was not relevant anymore. The link at the start of the page was also causing some confusion. And we got to know about these pain points only from the page voting mechanism that we had employed. So what kind of actions we took? There were some straightforward actions that we had to take here. So what we did was we made the topic introduction very crisp, removed all unnecessary information that we were presenting to the user. We removed the graphic that was no longer relevant, and we added direct links to the deployment documentation. Now to begin with, we made these changes in one of our content spaces. Just in one of our content spaces. We have several such content spaces, but we made this change only in one of the content space. And we observed this in our next metric cycle for any negative feedback on that particular page where we made the change. When there was no negative feedback on that page and other pages were still coming in that category of confusing pages, we went ahead and replicated these changes in other content sets as well. So we repeated this act and observe cycle for a couple of months. And now we see that there is no feedback on these pages. There is no negative feedback on these pages. Although the changes are small, as you can see, they are quite impactful for making our customers successful in navigating to the right content set. And they are also implemented incrementally based on the analytics that we gathered. So I will now move on to another example that was quite interesting for us. Again, as part of our regular metric analysis, in our top landing pages report, we saw that there was heavy traffic to one of our content pages. And the page was listed as second among all of our product documentation. Also, within a quarter, we saw that this page had more than 12,000 unique page views. Incredible amount of hits that we were seeing. Actually, more traffic to your content is a good metric. And if we look only at this data point, huge number of hits to this page is good and encouraging. However, we also saw that this page was being voted as not helpful. And the feedback that we were receiving was not the information I expected. So when we correlated these unique page views on this page and with the no votes that we were getting, we got the right insight. So what we did was, as part of our analysis, we did a quick Google search as to where exactly the problem is. So on the screen, if you see, if before we fix this particular issue with this page, if we searched for war file on Google, our page would get displayed on people also ask section. So we were quick to realize where the problem was. The problem was our page title was pretty generic. It was deploying the war file on Tomcat. So when somebody did that organic search on Google, our page was coming as the top search page. They were hitting the link there and coming to know that this is specific to one of BMC's product. So we had some very direct actions to take here. So as part of our action that we worked on this particular feedback, we changed the topic title specific to our product. And we also validated the content with the help of our QA teams. We observed that in our next metric cycle that there was no negative feedback on this page, and the page content no longer appeared in the people also asked section. So now if I search for war file, some other page comes up, but not our BMC's page, which was getting a lot of negative feedback. Again, as you can see, this is a very small but significant change that we have done based on the data. If we were not looking at the analytics, we wouldn't have known that there is a problem with this page in the first place. So by looking at these data, we were able to eliminate unnecessary traffic on this page and converted the negative votes to positive votes. So our strategy to use metrics to gain meaningful insights and act on the feedback seems to be bringing in delight to our customers, as it is evident from the customer survey feedback that we are seeing recently. So I've just pasted some verbatim comments that we received from the survey that we conduct every quarter. So that is kind of, encouraging. It is resonating positively with our customers. So when we started doing this activity periodically, as we started this particular process, we had some great takeaways and kind of learning to this entire data analytics realm altogether. So, in conclusion, I would like to highlight some of the takeaways that we have had. One of the key takeaway is if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. As it goes without saying, you should really be able to measure to be able to improve. And we apply it to the T as far as our metric analysis and content improvements are concerned. Correlate more than one data point for more accurate inference. As we have been analyzing our metrics over a period of time, we have observed that for better inference, you need to correlate more than one data point. The metrics on their own do not convey much. However, when we correlate them with other data points or events, the data suddenly starts making sense. We follow the analyze, act, observe cycle to incrementally bring in small but impactful improvements based on the data that we collect. And with that being said, I would like to conclude my session, and I'm open for questions. You can reach me. You can search for Ashwini Mathur, and I can answer questions now, and I'll also answer questions that you have via LinkedIn messages.
Okay, so thanks for a wonderful session, Ashwini. You have a lot of questions here. So we'll start. I will combine a few and ask them also. So then you can answer multiple questions at a time.
Sure.
So, okay, we'll start with Mugdha. Mugdha says, since when did you start tracking and how much time did it take for you to figure out exactly what you should be looking for? If an organization starts tracking the traffic on their documentation site today, how much time will they need to get meaningful outcomes? Also, who from the IDD team is responsible for analysis?
Okay. So we started analyzing this more than 1.5 years ago. Diligently started this entire process. Typically, from the documentation team, our infrastructure team, Wiki infrastructure team, gives the sets up the analytics and the data studio reporting for us. and seniors and the leads in the team typically do this analysis. And what were other parts of the question, Prachi, if you can repeat them for me?
Yes, she was saying if an organization starts tracking the traffic on their documentation site today, how much time will they need to get meaningful outcomes? And also, who from the IDD team is responsible for the analysis?
Yeah. So typically it would take more than a quarter's time, 3 months time, to start getting some meaningful hits to your content. And from the documentation team, typically the seniors in the team, your team leads, can certainly contribute to this analysis.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. I'll move on to the next. I will combine Pritesh's and Rohit Parmar's questions because they seem to be on the same lines. So Pritesh asks if a competitor company keeps adding prejudiced, biased feedback about your pages, is there any mechanism in your tool to scan or filter that? And Rohit also asked similarly, have there been instances where the customer's feedback itself was found to be invalid?
Yes, there are. There have been some cases where the feedback was invalid, so there was no action taken there. To state an example, recently we've received so much of feedback on our entrant pages, home pages, where customers are asking for a video on the home pages. Now the home pages to our content spaces are not designed for video. They are typically our entrant pages to our other areas of the documentation. So that is kind of an invalid and we do not take any action on that particular feedback.
Okay, we have a question by an anonymous attendee. So as a result of this feedback, are you now looking into user testing for documentation? And if yes, how do you go about it?
So far, in the future, we might definitely do for some portions of our content, we definitely do user testing. And that is done as part of our the beta phases of our release cadence. Whenever we have releases planned and when there is a beta phase, we typically call for user testing. And in the past, we have for some of our content strategy changes that we were proposing, we've got that feedback from user testing. And that is done via our internal product community pages.
Okay. Alpana has a question that data-driven approach more useful in studying website content. How will it benefit the traditional documents, which we create like user guides, admin guides, and other guides?
So typically the data-driven approach, as the question says, is for your website content. Now, for your guides, all you can do is you can have different mechanisms to collect feedback. This is particularly for our online version of the content that we have. Whereas if you have traditionally the PDFs given or user guides, configuration guides given, you can see how many were downloaded by the users, and then you can reach out to them and ask for their feedback on that content set. But this metric analysis that I just discussed was for our website, which is online.
Okay. Another anonymous attendee wants to know that when it comes to restructuring because of user comments, how do you keep a balance between time, effort, and budget?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. We struggle on this because we get a lot of comment, but then we have to prioritize. So there are other data points that help us to arrive at this decision, like which one is priority to deal with. So when I showed one report where we said what are our top popular content spaces. Now, when there is a major restructuring that we are planning on that, we treat it carefully and we also prioritize that effort. And because it becomes very easy for us also to reach out to our stakeholders and our senior leadership team, where we can say, look, this is the most popular content set and now we have to prioritize the restructuring and this sort of feedback that we are getting in. So it's little tough, but when we do right prioritization and when we have these correct data points, it becomes easy, and the channel of communication becomes quite easy when we prioritize that.
So Sachin wants to know, are there uh, oh, okay, Sachin wants to know, are there instances where feedback on the doc actually needs changes on the product?
Yes.
Are you able to influence the product design, and can you share some examples?
Not in the recent times, but then one of the things that we get to know is, the compatibility decisions that the product has, such as, what which is to support, and whether to go for the open source technologies, open JDK. That kind of feedback we seem to have gotten from our content, the feedback that we have received, and that we have promptly communicated to our product management team, and that was taken up, received very well, and then that was implemented in our recent releases, product releases.
Aruna wants to know, how do you choose which metrics to track?
Sorry, please say that again. How do you?
How do you decide which metrics to track?
Yeah. So for now, initially when we started off, we were looking at the bounce rate, exit rate, page engagement metrics. But then when we set up the Google Analytics, we realized that these were our initial goals. We wanted to know that there are several product lines that BMC offers the documentation for. So we wanted to know which are our top pages, that are doing well, that are resonating well with our customers. So when we set up our initial analytics, we set them as our goals, and we created this custom reporting to help us gain that. Now, for all of our needs, we are finding that this is helping us for most of our data needs and for the feedback that we get. Maybe in future, if we realize that we need to deep down further and we need more of that kind of different type of an insight, we will set different goals, and that's the IDD leadership team that will take decisions as to which data to collect.
Okay, so just a quick time check, Rajiv. There are questions pouring in, so and lot of interesting questions as well. So how much time do we have? Can we take another?
We can, yeah. Maybe we can take another 4 or 5 questions.
Oh, great! Because
because
so
people are interested, so let's utilize the time. Anyway, we have a break, so we
Okay.
can keep on for another 5-10 minutes for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, please
So
go ahead.
Meenal has a very interesting question. So for this metric analysis, have the people in IDD team received any kind of training to learn how to correlate and analyze this data?
Yeah, some of the writers who were interested in delving deep into this whole realm, they took some formal training as far as Google Data Studio and Google Analytics is concerned. There is a lot of information available on the internet, but we did not take any particular course as such. We learned on the job for understanding how the metrics are talking to us. But it's available.
Rohit wants to know that BMC has a lot of videos. So do you analyze the traffic and usefulness of the videos as well?
Yes, we do that. So we track our YouTube channel metrics also, and typically there we look for the audio engagement value that our videos provide. So that's the one metric which we track regularly for videos.
Akash wants to know who communicates the feedback or the metrics to the writers team to make these changes in the documents.
So typically the seniors and lead writers in the team, they collect this data, they analyze it, and they communicate it to the team. And they also provide them the pointers to work on that actionable feedback, what actions to take.
Okay. Nibu wants to know, how do organizations that don't have a feedback mechanism in place improve their content? So do you have any ideas for them?
I think somewhere there has to be some communication or some feedback mechanism, right? If I'm not getting any feedback, then I would consider no feedback is good feedback. But if I really want to, I should either be having some channel open to talk to customers, talk to the users of that product. That way, only that way I will be able to gain that feedback and that gain insight and improve my content. So there has to be some communication channel open with the customers is what I would like to say.
So on similar lines, Kavita wants to know that if constructive feedback has been addressed, do you convey it to the reader?
So via page commenting, yes, we do. When we respond to our customer comments, we thank our customers who must have had very good, valuable feedback, and that has made the change very effective for other customers as well. So we do via the page commenting and page responses that we have, we communicate that constructive feedback to our customers.
So Subhajit, I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. How can we track readers' behavior for an on-prem product help where Google Analytics is not an option?
So again, when Google Analytics is not an option, all I can think of is you can reach out to the customers. You can see if there are any downloads. You can reach out to your product management team and look for opportunities to talk to customers and ask them if they are looking at that documentation and if they have any feedback.
Your phone has no data connection. I can't help.
So Mugdha also wanted to know, did you need to change your strategy around video creation due to this analytics?
Yes, we had to.
Okay, and
We started getting a lot of feedback saying needs a video for some of our procedural information, which we were already aware of. So that feedback gave us good input, and it also helped us to prioritize our efforts in video making.
okay. Dinsan has a couple of questions, all very interesting. How do you measure and address the content gap? What is your overall strategy? I'll read out the second one as well, and then we can come back to it. So is there any metric that you share with the product team to help improve the product experience? Oh, you want to
So
take
what was the first?
the first one is, how do you measure and address content gap? What is your overall strategy?
So we measure the content gaps via this feedback. The measure is, there is no direct measure there. We correlate it with some, we see for patterns. If we are getting regular feedback on some set of, content set. For example, which I mentioned previously, we got a lot of feedback saying, we need a video. Video is a kind of delivery mechanism where there is good adoption for our content. So that particular thing informed us that there is a gap, that our content is wiki based, but we also need to deliver similar how-to procedures via videos. So that's where, we could see that there is a gap in the way we are delivering our content.
And the second part of the question was, is there any metric that you share with the product team to improve the product experience?
Yes. What we do is, again, our the unique page views or the most viewed content is a great metric for us to reach out to our product management and the engineering team. For example, our REST API documentation is most accessed one. That is the content where we get the most hits. So we always communicate back to our product management. REST API has the most adoption and most accessed content set. So they are aware that any change that happens and any feedback, any supportability questions that come via the REST API content feedback, we communicate it to them and they prioritize it as part of their backlog when the future releases are planned.
Okay. So Vivek wants to know, is your content available on the internet or is it available only for your customer? Do you run Google Analytics on intranet or internet?
Our content is available to all customers and also to anonymous users. So when you search on the Google for BMC documentation, our documentation dashboard comes up, and the Google Analytics are for our internet based.
Okay. Kiran wants to know, what tool do you use for getting the metrics?
We use Google Analytics.
Google Analytics. Okay. Raj Kamal wants to know, what is your strategy on adding topics to the landing page? Is it top issues or top search topics?
Both. It is both. And also the top use cases. That information which we get from our product management and support teams. What are the top use cases for this content? So when we design our landing pages, we see that the top issues, the top pain points, the top use cases come up front so that the navigation to those areas of documentation becomes easy.
Okay. Now, Kavita has a very interesting question. How do you stimulate the user to provide feedback on the content? Typically, the user reaches content to solve an immediate problem, which when resolved, the reader might not be interested in providing feedback.
True. Exactly. I mean, that's something a perennial problem. But as I mentioned in one of my in this session, we are very glad us do leave the comments. They're very active, and typically when a page is voted as not helpful, when we present the categories, they do take time to fill in those categories and submit their feedback. So although that problem resides, but we are glad that majority of customers do send that feedback to us.
So on this point of feedback, I'm sure everybody is very happy with the session, but still when we provide the feedback link, please do fill it up. Okay. I'll just be posting the feedback link. We'll take a couple of questions more. That's okay, Ashwini, right? And Rajiv, we are okay with the time? Okay, I'll go on. So an anonymous attendee wants to know, are you also using GA for micro content such as tooltips and information text on the UI? And how do you interpret those?
Not exactly. We have our self-help being used within the product. So yes, we are using, but there we are just using not for the micro content that we are creating there, but and also for the tooltips. But we are using how that inline self-help is accessed, which self-help was the most popular one, and stuff like that.
Okay. Karthik wants to know, do you have a dedicated analytics team that supports you, or do you do the analysis within the doc team? And if within the doc team, do you again have a dedicated person doing so, or is this part of each team's responsibilities? How do you go about it?
So the infrastructure team has set up the analytics and data studio reporting for us. They have set the goals for us. However, each lead writer within the team is responsible for analyzing and collecting the data.
Okay. Shall we take a couple of questions more, Rajiv? Is that okay?
Hi, Prachi. Yeah, absolutely. Because the next session is at 11, and because it is on the same session, people are there.
Okay.
So instead of they getting bored, maybe they can kind of interact through the questions. Yeah. And thanks, Ashwini, for being accommodative.
I know. Thank you.
It's really great to see so much of response to your session through question answers.
I'm glad.
Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Saumita wants to know, where shall I get tools for, hang on. Okay, Sangeeta wants to know, do you have some sort of feedback curation? How do you sort through feedback?
Yeah, the feedback curation meaning, some of the feedback need not necessarily make sense to us in the sense, if the feedback is on, as I mentioned earlier, on the home page, if somebody is asking for needs a video kind of a feedback, we do not act on that feedback. So we we do not go further into that particular feedback. We look for other pages where there was some direct and meaningful feedback that we received.
Okay. So Soumita wants to know, where can I get doc analytics metric preparation strategies?
Google documentation, I think the Google Analytics documentation is a great place where you can start reading up and know the nitty-gritties of setting up your Google Analytics account and what kind of data that you can start looking into immediately when you up your website or your blogging website, so to say. And that's a great resource to begin with.
This is from Sangeeta. How do you balance out the insights from the product metrics along with the content specific metrics?
Say that again, please.
How do you balance out the insights from the product metrics along with the content specific metrics?
Yeah. So as part of the product metrics also, when we conduct the survey, we using products is one important data point as part of our customer feedback surveys. So at the time of using the product, if product documentation is confusing or unclear, that one area is causing them not successful with using of the product because the documentation was confusing. So that is one product metric where we attach our documentation also as one of the part of the product metric. And then we also look into the self-help resources being helpful or not. So that is a separate content metric. And we try to balance out, and most of the times we have seen that is in line with our both the feedback that we get for product metrics as well as content metrics is in line. I mean, if there are no anomalies there, we have not gotten any conflicting feedback there.
Okay. Syed has an interesting question. How do you address pages with no hits?
Yeah. We check whether, those pages are really not going to, not read, there is no readership at all for that page, and reach out to our support and product management teams to see whether, this feature or this particular functionality is being used at all or not. And then we take a decision on archiving that particular content set.
Radhika wants to know, I hope I've pronounced it correctly, your reason for selecting Google Analytics, because Adobe also offers similar analytics tracking.
Google Analytics, I think, is more straightforward and pretty easy. It meets most of our data needs. So, and it is a freemium kind of a tool that we have. So we went ahead with that.
Okay. I don't know if this is a related question, but I just asked since somebody's asked it. What is the typical duration of a particular video, and do you develop videos for all the operations such as installing, configuring, administering?
Yeah. Now, video making is highly people-centric task. Depends upon person to person. On an average, we chart out a video within a week's time. And yes, we do have videos for installing, upgrading, and administering kind of a content.
Okay. So last two questions now. So Tazim wants to know, are users contacted if feedback is not clear?
Not really, not very diligently, but we look for sometimes the feedback also we get as anonymous. When the feedback is anonymous and unclear, we do not act on that. But we look for opportunities to reach out to our customers in whenever there is, the beta cycle for our product releases are being planned. We set up our meetings with them and get feedback on them. But if there is unclear feedback, and that if it is made by an anonymous user, we do not pursue further.
So Deepak's question is on the same lines, that how do you then respond to negative feedback?
As I said, if the feedback is negative and has come on our page as via a comment. We respond. We have our comment policy, and based on that comment policy, we have our responses, and we respond based on the comment policy that is available for us.
Okay. I think this last question from Nivedita. You said you use Google Analytics. So now how do you handle compliance issues? Do you have any GDPR regulation? In short, do you collect any user data?
I think our infrastructure team has made sure that that GDPR, our content analysis or the data that we collect is GDPR compliant enough, and we are not compliant on that front.
So I think it's been a great session, Ashwini. And thank you so much for staying online, taking all these questions so patiently. I'm sorry I've not been able to communicate all the questions, but Ashwini, I think you've given your contact details, right?
Sure, yeah.
You'll have lots of LinkedIn requests today.
I think so. I'm glad, and
Very nice. Okay.
I'm glad to